everybody. Welcome back to Keith and Mike Watch Deep Space Nine. Today, we are going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 4, Invasive Procedures. It is bright and early on a Tuesday morning. Mike, how you doing?
I am feeling great, Keith, for many reasons. Reason number one, I got to watch Deep Space Nine last night. Really dug the episode. We're dealing with, Mike loves the Trill stuff, so we're dealing with it.
The Trillvia.
Yeah, the Trillvia, so I'm digging that. Also, Keith, I may have hit a button on Amazon last night and bought another action figure, because, and a little birdie flew into my ear and told me, I'm trying to think, when did we post this? Yes, this will post before. We may have gotten a box in the mail from Playmates with some stuff in it.
We certainly did. We got a much bigger box than I was expecting to get from our friends at Playmates Toys. So check out our sister show, Look at My Star Trek Toys, where Mike and I are reviewing. It started out as reviewing all of the 1990s Playmates 4.5-inch action figures. Well, let me tell you, that has grown. So we are going to review every single item in line 1 of the 2022 Playmate series, as well as now we are branching out into customs. I'll be the little bird and say we got another box of an amazing set of customs that we are going to get in there. I don't know when we're going to get it in the feed because we are stacked up for months now. But we are going to do it. I'm so excited to show those to you. Lots of really exciting things happening over in Toyland. But today, we're talking about Deep Space Nine, and this is where I ask Mike, because I didn't check because it's been a busy week for me. Did you do your homework and drop the animated series on our Patreon feed?
Yes. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
I love so many things about that. One, that you did it. Hooray.
Yeah.
But two, that it took you that long to remember if you did. And possibly three, that I didn't even bother to know myself. But
time is a construct, Keith, and I'm not up on it.
No, time is linear, Mike.
Oh, okay.
Time is not a construct. If we've learned nothing from Deep Space Nine, time is linear.
Yeah, NBC last night on the new Quantum Leap series told me otherwise, Keith.
Ooh, well, I haven't watched it yet. It's been a crazy week, but we should probably maybe review that together at some point.
We should. I think we should maybe watch the pilots of both, the original and this, because they really tried hard to make. You know what? We're gonna have another podcast to talk about that kind of stuff.
Another show.
Yeah.
But you know who gets to see it first, Mike? It's our patrons at patreon.com/K&M. Spell out that and. Mike, who are our patrons at this particular moment here on this beautiful Tuesday morning?
Oh, well, it'd be great if I had it pulled up, but it's not saved where it should be.
It's not like we do this every single week.
But
while you do that, I'll tell you what's up there on patreon.com/K&M. You get bonus episodes that Mike remembers to post. Very exciting. We did the pilot of Star Trek, the animated series. We also have queued up that we have to record probably this week, another episode of The Next Generation, which I'm excited to talk about with you and show with you because it relates directly to Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
So we're gonna see. We're sort of going back and doing some of the next gen episodes that lay groundwork for Deep Space Nine.
Keith, the people who put up with our infrequent or not our inconsistent posting on Patreon. Oh God, words. Brian Kaufman, Casey Clark, Cloud Lover 69, Jorge Navoa, longtime friend and listener, and the Mysterious, which is how she enjoys being credited, anybody who gives us crap. Alan Zimmer, if you'd like to be credited a different super way, let us know. We'll change the graphic. And by we'll, I mean Keith. Alan Zimmerman, CRM Productions, and Charles Babbage. And if you would like to send us any goodies in the mail, be it toys, be it memorabilia, whatever have you, the DS9 companion that I'm looking for so desperately, but it's like $100 on eBay, and I'm not going to spend that kind of money. You can email us at, what's our email address?
Well, you can your best bet is look at my Star Trek toys at gmail.com. Mainly because that's the one I can control and control where the things get sent.
Fair.
To my house.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, JD's painting of us is literally framed on the wall above my piano, directly to my right. So it looks magnificent. I'm so excited about it. Anyway, what do you say we talk about some Deep Space Nine?
I think that is a good idea. I'm going to pop you out so I can look at your face, Keith, which is my first mistake, but I'm going to do it.
That is a mistake. That's everyone's mistake.
All right, let's do some Deep Space Nining, shall we?
Okay. Well, we are talking about Season 2, Episode 4, Invasive Procedures, and it aired on October 17th, 1993. I'm so wistful about the fall of 93 because it was such a happy time for me football-wise. Miserable in all other possible ways, but football just made me so happy. And you know what else would made me happy? Listening to the beautiful strains that, every week I say, oh, Mike's definitely listened to it by now so he can sing us a little bit of the jingle. And every week, Mike disappoints. But this week I'm absolutely certain that Mike has learned. It can't
possibly be the same song. No chance.
He must have at least learned a 16-bar cut, for his audition, singing Mariah Carey's Dream Lover. Oh, I can't wait to hear because Mike learned it this time.
Dream Lover. I definitely listened this week.
Okay, that's very, very wrong. The top movie, which I forgot to mention last week, was Demolition Man.
Oh, a Stallone joint.
A Stallone joint. This was its second week at the top of the charts. So Stallone taking over. And Sandra Bullock, right?
Yes. I think interestingly, he has a new joint out, the Samaritan. I don't know why I'm Samaritan, which I've just heard is such trash I can't possibly watch it. But I've heard it has parallels to the Demolition Man. So what's old is new again, Keith.
Indeed. And you want to know, actually, that is a perfect segue to this week's Weekly World News headline. Ooh. Mike, any guesses what was in the news on the Weekly World News this week?
Can it possibly be something Trump? Give me something Trump.
Oh, no, but it is political. Of course, JFK meets Jackie for the first time in 30 years because, of course, in this universe, JFK is still alive. And we have dramatic photos taken just days ago. The couple's historic reunion at Virginia Estate lasted 25 minutes. So if you would like to find out more about JFK and Jackie hanging out in 1993, pick up your October 17th, 1993 Weekly World News. Okay, so this episode was directed by veteran director Les Landau, who last directed The Forsaken, one of our favorite episodes from season 2.
Yeah, enjoyed it quite a bit.
It was written by John Wepley and Robert Hewitt Wolfe, who did the teleplay, and John Welpley also did the story.
Okay.
This was his only episode of Trek in any way, shape, or form. So there we go. Let us do some trivial trivia. There's some fun stuff this week in a segment we call Now Keith, Waste Your Time with Trivial Trivia. Yeah, I gotta watch myself, because usually when the bumpers play, right, I'm like, oh, I can take a drink from my coffee, I can pick my nose or whatever. But last week you layered us over, so there I was. I thought I was off camera.
Yeah, I usually remember to. It's you remember I was like, it's much easier to just do it in post. It's not.
It's not easier.
It's not hard. It's just I have to like scrub through
different workflow.
But it is. It's what we've just. It's what we're doing. So it is what it is.
Just folks, when you're on a show that Mike is editing, just keep your wits about you.
That's
because
it.
You think you're not on camera? You might be on camera. All right, so trivial trivia for Invasive Procedures. First off, Tim Russ is here. And do you know who Tim Russ is, Mike?
No.
You said that with, oh yeah, Tim Russ is here.
I was trying to remember the name of the guest star who's clearly the dad in Smallville, and I couldn't come up with his name.
We're gonna talk about him a great deal. So Tim Russ, who plays the larger of the two Klingons, is kind of Star Trek royalty because he plays Tuvok on Star Trek Voyager. He's a series regular on Star Trek Voyager. But
he did seem familiar looking, so maybe that's got to be it.
I mean, you've seen several action figures of Tim Russ. But here's the thing. This is already his second Star Trek appearance because he was on Starship Mine in The Next Generation, which was Next Gen's Die Hard, which was super fun, and which also guest starred Patricia Tallman, who's going to come up in our next piece of trivia.
Okay.
But Tim Russ would also go on to be in Star Trek Generations, who we've seen a custom figure of his character from Star Trek Generations, and all of this would be before he was cast ultimately as Tuvok on Star Trek Voyager.
Okay.
So Tim Russ, long storied Star Trek legacy, and he's one of the few people who have played Klingons and Vulcans and humans in his life there. So the next piece of trivia. Continuing to speak about Tim Russ, he accidentally punched Kira's stand-in, Patricia Tallman, during a fight. Tallman is another person we've seen a custom figure for. So, who's was such an interesting actress because she really did do both. She was a stunt performer and an actor. And so she performed a couple of roles as an actor on Star Trek and was the stand-in stunt person for pretty much all of the female characters through the 90s and was like a series regular on another sci-fi show. Like she's really done both, which is super interesting. And this is why she's awesome, because Tim Russ punched her right in the face and she said, "Keep rolling because it looks great." Because she's a stunt performer. They don't care. They just want it to look good.
We'll get to it. I was going to say she couldn't have taken much injury, and I think I made this joke in my watch along, because she's wearing full football pads. She's just got a full protective football layer on.
Hey, safety first, buddy.
Yeah.
Safety first. Well, but she didn't have football pads on her face, which is I think where she probably got punched.
Probably. It's very her outfit is very designing women.
I think this is stand-in for Kira.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can't wait to see the screenshot you have of that.
It's so straight. It's the shoulder pad. Okay, we'll get there.
All right. Anyway, so lastly, when Varad Dax and Sisko mention the cliffs of Bole, that is a reference to frequent Trek director Cliff Bole.
They love an Easter egg, don't they?
Tons of Easter eggs. It's so much fun. There are several more in that very conversation.
God, I'd learn so much if I had the compendium, which is available in hardback only. Someone out there has it, and I want it. Could you help me out?
You know what? I think that our entire empire has now devolved into Mike just begging for free stuff.
Well, Keith keeps getting mail. He gets toys in the mail. I just get to look at him open them, and it's starting to suck a little bit.
I get toys. I get custom figures of us. I get paintings of us.
I just get to look at them on a little screen on OBS through another screen. Depending on Keith's internet connection of the day, it might even be pixelated. So, man, help me out.
Somebody send Mike some fun toys. All right. It's going to be whining for the whole rest of this year. We have another 160 episodes to do. So, all right. So, lastly, before we get to guest stars, what was Next Generation doing? And this was, of course, when the Next Gen wasn't doing Gambit, because I have screwed this. We've done this segment maybe 3 times.
What's the date again? While you do this, I'm going to look up the thing I promised. I'm supposed to be doing a segment too. It's not going well.
No, I was right. Yes, October 17th
okay.
was Gambit Part 2. You know what? I had so little faith in myself. I thought I was wrong. I was not wrong. So, of course, yes, it was the second part of Gambit on the Next Generation. Lots of good, fun stuff with Picard and Riker undercover, shutting down, the bad guys. Mike, I don't even know what segment you're doing.
Well, Keith, remember I wanted to look at what else was on TV that night, and same kind of stuff we talked about last week, since I can't figure out how to scroll on this page. But we still had our World Series pregame, Keith. Oh,
Ooh.
Keith! Holy crap! I'm glad I looked. This evening, I wouldn't have been watching because my Philadelphia Phillies.
Oh, what you're wearing on your head?
Were in the World Series, Keith, and they won this game 6-4.
Wow, very
the
exciting.
The 93 team. They would ultimately lose because Joe Carter really just ruined it all for us. But
did you lose to Toronto? Is that right?
Yes, the Toronto Blue Jays.
How do I remember that? I don't even care about baseball.
But we won this game. Airing on Fox, we had the juggernaut of Living Single, Martin, and Married with Children. And NBC was airing something called Sequest.
Sequest? You don't know about Sequest?
I don't remember Sequest, no.
Oh my God, it was Star Trek Underseas with oh my God.
Okay, man.
Roy Scheider
memorable.
from Jaws.
And of course, ABC was airing Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, the episode Requiem for a Superhero.
What a big night.
Yeah, big night of television.
Big night of television. Well, speaking of Superman, that is another good segue, sir, because we are going to start introducing our guest stars, including John Glover.
Glover, that's it. I couldn't remember.
John Glover, of course, who played Lex Luthor's father on Smallville, one of Mike's favorite shows.
Loved it.
And the legendary John Glover, because I don't usually give a lot of credits on these things, but John Glover is a big friggin' deal.
Yeah.
He has 5 Emmy nominations. He is a Tony winner. He has, I looked it up, he has done 19 different Broadway shows. And including Drowsy Chaperone, which I saw him do Man in the Chair.
Oh, really? I bet he was excellent.
He was amazing. He's not a singer, but like his transition from like funny to heartbreaking was just like lightning quick. It was so good. But yeah, John Glover is a legendary actor, and I'm going to finish our episode with a piece of trivial trivia about John Glover that just makes me smile every time I think about it. So keep an eye out for theater, television, and film actor John Glover. Also in this episode, he's playing Varad, of course. And also in this episode is Megan Gallagher as Muriel, who you would also know as Lieutenant Jaren in Voyager, Body and Soul, and will be back on Deep Space Nine in the episode Little Green Men, which I am so excited for Mike to watch. Such a fun little episode, Little Green Men. But back as a different character, Tim Russ, as we already introduced, as Takar, and Steve Rankin as Yeto, the other Klingon. I can hear myself coming through, buddy.
Sorry, but that's because my ears were over there.
Oh, that's what's happening. All right, so Steve Rankin played Yeto, who also played Colonel Green on Enterprise, Phenom in Think Tank on Voyager, and was a Cardassian officer in Emissary, and also played Patak in The Enemy on The Next Generation, which is interesting because I believe that was a Romulan, and yet Patak is a Klingon slur. So interesting. So everybody in the guest stars here have had long Star Trek and sci-fi connections. So must have been fun to cast. But now I think it's going to be fun to talk about. What do you say we hop into the screening room and talk about this episode, Mike?
Sing us in.
Am I on camera?
Probably.
I do not know.
I expect to take it out, but I may not.
Okay, here we are in Invasive Procedures, and we begin with, oh snap, the station has been evacuated again because of a plasma storm. So it's just our heroes this week. So a couple of things immediately. One, it's weird to evacuate 2 episodes in a row.
Yeah.
But I think there's a correlation, Mike. What do you think that correlation might be?
They're trying to save that money?
That's right. The first 3 episode arc was expensive. So let's do a bottle episode with no extras. And so this had to have been one of the cheapest episodes they did all season long. But our heroes are locking everything down when Odo hears a suspicious sound, and naturally, it's Quark.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And he's praying in an airlock for some reason. And he didn't evacuate because he's a series regular. I mean, he didn't want to leave his Latinum behind.
Mm-hmm. But he's waiting for his brother, right? I love my brother.
He's saying goodbye to his brother, Rom. So clearly it's pretty funny that he was there unlocking the airlock and heard somebody coming, and like his thought was like, oh, pray. He just must have like thrown himself to the ground and started praying. That was it's clever. Quark's he's quick on the uptake, which is also impressive because they work so hard to make sure we don't hear footfalls on the set, which is why most of the ships are carpeted. Although that's not true on Deep Space Nine. I don't know how they dampen the sound, other than just cutting it out. Anyway, we also learn in the scene that Chief O'Brien has two brothers, which I don't think we knew.
Yeah,
didn't know that.
The O'Brien boys.
The O'Brien boys. And, of course, we find out that Quark has left a device stuck to an airlock wall. But we don't know what it means yet. But it's time to go to credits, because that is the end of the teaser. We begin in Act 1. The storm's intensity is up, and Bashir is super excited about all of it. Back to like, yay, I'm Bashir, look at me, I'm doing things.
That's funny. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like.
And of course, like, I guess like this crazy storm, and they've just locked off ops in the small area. But I guess if it was safe in ops, why couldn't they make the rest of the whatever? We're just gonna roll with it. This is what we're doing. It sets up a good idea.
Here are her shoulder pads. That's a good shot.
Oh, but that's normal.
I know it's normal, but it just really struck me today where I was like, oh yeah, she's like wearing full on linebacker pads.
Well, look, we are now. I mean, 1993 is almost like late 80s.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that was just fashion, buddy. Fashion. So Dax gets an alert that a small vessel is approaching. They call and say they were caught in the storm and are asking for assistance. So naturally, they tractor beam them in, and O'Brien releases the emergency seal on the airlock. That's a cool. I thought the effects of the storm around the station looked great.
Totally.
And you can see here how the tractor beam works.
The ship almost looks like the ship from Spaceballs, which is a weird reference, but like the Winnebago.
I think it pretty much is. I think they made a Spaceballs reference recently on Star Trek. Anyway, classic. So, or might have been Star Wars. I forget who made the reference. But here we come with our guys. Then two Klingons, including Tim Russ.
First, let me just say, we just found Quark, right? Nobody at this point was suspicious that, like, literally 5 minutes later, we have to go to the same airlock to let these people in.
Well,
little suspicious. Nobody clocked it.
Odo is an amazing security officer, but I think the fact that he is in love with Quark means, love is blind. Love, sometimes you miss things when your heart is going.
I think I might have commented on. I often think maybe Odo's one of his. I think he has a bit of hubris when it comes to his ability as a security officer. I think he maybe is a little, because we've seen a lot of kind of not great. This is way too easy of an invasion. Like this is way too easy.
Wildly too easy.
Yeah.
Wildly too easy. Yeah. But if you think about it, most of his mistakes, most of his hubris relates to Quark. He's always being outsmarted by Quark. And I think that's because he's in love. Because you all had that like girl in middle school who, like, you didn't really notice that she was being mean to you because she was just talking to you. Mm-hmm. I once Tales of Keith's Heartbreak in 3rd grade. There was this girl named Sarah. I won't give her last name. And she convinced me that if I gave her all of my micro machines, that maybe she'd be in love with me. Mm-hmm. The micro machines passed hands. The love did not.
Oh.
So
Man.
It was very sad. That was my first attempt at transactional love, and it didn't work.
Keith, did you write words and words and words of heartbreak in your journal and then read the back very, very fastly?
Oh, well, I definitely did not, because at that point I would have had to write it by hand. I can't even write a check by hand.
We've all got our own little Ferengi girl, don't we?
We all have our own little Ferengi girl. That's right. Anyway, so yeah, so I think these people sending me toys in the mail is just making up for that heartbreak, because I never got those marker machines back. Just so you know. Where were we? We are so off the rails.
They're getting attacked through the airlock.
Oh, right. I'm in the second line of this entire recap. So, then 2 Klingons, including Tim Russ, and a lady take them hostage.
We only see the one Klingon one time, right?
No, he's in the infirmary with Bashir.
Oh, okay.
So one stays on ops, one hangs out with Bashir. But we see. So I'm curious about the smoke in that scene. Like, it's from the storm, but how did it get into the ship? If it's an airlock.
Well, everybody knows that if you get into your hurricane shelter, and no disrespect, I know when this is airing on the internet, there's a lot of people suffering in Puerto Rico, and there are a lot of tropical storms happening. It's just a coincidence that we have a storm episode here, Keith. But as we all know, when you go into your little storm shelter and you open it up the next day, some rain comes out, right? That's just how it works.
Well, it does, except for you have a lot of storm shelter and things specifically designed 500 years in the future to protect you from the vacuum of space are slightly more advanced. But
we had a line item in the budget for smoke. We're using the GD smoke, all right?
Oh my God.
Patricia back in props, put all the ice in, she smoked it up. We got to use
Having access to a smoke machine is, I've had access to a smoke machine for a while. It's just too damn much fun.
Yeah. Keith, I'm surprised you don't have smoke right now in your shot, because that would be great.
Oh my God. Hold on.
For the next toys, I want smoke.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Hold on. I think I can do this. Oh, wait. Wrong. All right. There we go.
Oh, boy.
It's gonna happen. There we go.
Your computer's melting because your sync is all kinds of crazy. Turn that off.
Oh, but it looks so cool.
No. Oh, you're fired. Zing.
This episode is already terrible, and we're still in Act 1. All right. So anyway, I'm still in one sentence. Then snap. In comes a Trill played by John Glover with a box to trap Odo in. And Odo goes into the box and takes the rest of the week's filming off. Clearly, Renee probably had a vacation scheduled, so he comes in for one day. Oh, I'm in a box. Oh no, I'm off to Disney World. So they arrive in the infirmary and give Odo to Bashir to put in a stasis chamber. Then they arrive on Ops and take everyone else prisoner. That was remarkably easy. Which is
this is the biggest one. Okay, so I get the break-in, blah blah blah, but the one that bothers me, and what I think I said on my watch along, was this is like pre 9/11 airplane cockpit when they just let little people into the cockpit. Why would you? It has to be very difficult to get to Ops. Like you got to lock that one down. I guess they have Bashir and they got O'Brien with them, so maybe O'Brien opened the door. But come on.
You don't have sensors for weapons? Because we've already established in canon that the Promenade has weapon detectors. You don't have those on Ops or, in the corridors surrounding Ops or on the Jeffries tubes or the elevators or any of that. It doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense.
Plus, and you're like, I know that they took their communicators, right? But don't you have, maybe we had a meeting about this last week. We're like, let's get a secret emergency thing. Like the second they were being bum rushed, they could have been like, beep, and then it sets off an alarm. There's got to be something.
Any of the computers built into every wall, just send an email.
I think we've established our wormhole, Keith.
Yeah, I think we just may have, not the least of which, I didn't even know this was Star Trek canon until the animated series episode that we put up on patreon.com/KNM. They had an automatic defense, like, zapper come down from the...
somebody mosquito these Klingons. Mosquito zap them.
Like, you don't have a zapper that you can, like... Of course, doing that would break every story that's ever been told on Star Trek.
Fair.
So I understand you can't have, like, story-breaking technology, but... Yeah, you got a little ball there. Just beep, 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 beep. Zaps out whoever you want to. It's so easy. I don't know why. Anyway. So, John Glover starts doing something on the computer, and we speculate it was Quark who helped them get on board. Naturally. So, then... Oh, and of course, John Glover's playing a trill. We discover that. Then the other Klingon goes to Quark's. And Quark thinks that the Klingon is there to purchase liquid data chains. But apparently it's not that. Which begs the question, why does the Klingon go to
That
Quark?
was my question! So maybe, I guess you assume one of two things. What's the John Glover trill name?
Virile.
Virile. Either... One more time.
Virad.
He's holding a vial. The guy's name is Virad. Either paid him handsomely or is expecting him to come to some sort of power and prominence and take him with him, I suppose, or they're old friends. But just take the thing too. Like, just get these little vials here and take the money.
Well, I think that I think the way I would fix it is he knows that there's only X amount of people on the station. He made a deal with Quark, but it was a trick. That he doesn't want Quark interfering with whatever their plan is. So you got to account for everybody on the station.
That's fair.
So we head back to Ops, and Sisko asks, what's up? The Klingon explains that the person who hired them is actually the shy Trill. And he explains that he wants Dax. Not Jadzia, but the symbiote Dax. And he's going to steal them. And he knows this will kill Jadzia, and he feels bad about it, but he's still going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we start doing some good trivia. He's spent his whole life trying to qualify for joining, but they rejected him as unsuitable. And Dax reminds us, because Virad would totally know this, that only 1 in 10 trills get joined. Is that something that you knew yet?
I think we had discussed it early on. I think you had prepped me because I had some questions about the proving or the selecting or whatever it's called. And you had filled me in that I don't know that I knew it was 1 in 10, but you said it was very selective, I recall.
Yep. I don't know if the show had established that yet. I think they mentioned it probably in the episode Dax. But this really does continue to set up that canon.
But what she did say, which I thought was interesting here and a good context for the Trill as a species, was that though it's a great honor to be selected, there's also zero shame in not being selected, right? Like right. He seems to have a pretty deep well of hurt about it, but she was like, it's not a judgment at all. Most people don't get selected. Yeah.
Which is something that somebody who got selected would say to somebody who didn't get selected if they're just being nice. But yeah.
I was a little disappointed here because where I kind of was when he started his exposition monologue, what I was kind of hoping this plot was going to be was that he had been selected and there was some sort of clerical issue or some sort of reason why he was selected to
actually be entitled to it.
Yeah, but you know.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah,
that's fun. It's not the story we're telling, but that's fun.
Yeah.
So Virad explains that he's chosen Dax and is planning to steal them and peace out through the wormhole once he does. And Jadzia explains that the risks of a bad joining could cause permanent psychological damage. So it's not just, the selection process is not just you're like elite enough to be worthy of a join, but you actually have to be compatible psychologically and in a lot of different ways.
Oh, he's done that research though.
Yeah, well, he doesn't care because he is all about living up to his potential and he thinks he deserves more. Bashir, of course, says, I won't help. But then Varad shoots O'Brien and says he'll kill them all if he doesn't help. And so, okay, it's interesting because like his version, pre-Dax Varad he's very shy, he's very reserved. It seems kind of almost nice, but then like dude's ruthless.
Yeah, well, he's come this far, right? So his manifesto's been written. He's compiled his sort of weapons, and he's acting out his plot, man.
He's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. So Jadzia steps in and says to help Varad, naturally, and also Varad's puts on one of the Federation communicators, and so all of the bad guys put on the communicators. I'm not sure why.
There's a great scene. I'm not sure if it's passed already, or a great shot. Because it's right before this, and they had already collected. I think it's when they steal the communicators originally. They all clip them to their lapels.
Yeah,
but he can't get his to clip, right?
Oh,
so he just like grabs it in his hand and they run off frame. And for whatever reason, they liked that take, or they just they ran out of time and couldn't do another take, which is probably more likely. But it made me laugh because we're once in the future and they're clearly like self-adhesing, whatever's, but he couldn't get his to clip. So they just ran off.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
I think there were magnets.
Yeah, whatever. It didn't work.
But I could be wrong. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Didn't work. But also like, I don't understand the logic of putting them on. Right. Because it would do two things. One, it would allow them to communicate with each other, but you would think they would have another way to communicate. Like, why didn't they have their own communicators to talk with each other? Like, that's the first time they've ever been able to text each other.
Now, riddle me this, technologically. I assume that the doors and such are biometrically synced to you, so like it opens because it knows who you are. So it's not like the communicator works as like key fob.
Well, that would make a lot of sense. I think that would be a way to make this.
Surely the technology and the computer handles all that, though.
Oh, sure. But I think in canon, at least at this point, they'd never addressed that, and that the doors basically worked like just motion detection, as opposed to, because they're, if you need to access a door, you put in your code or whatever. So, certainly the technology would exist at that point. So I don't think they were used as a key fob in canon. That makes perfect sense. And that would explain why they took them. But otherwise, I don't, because it has a disadvantage too, right? Because now, for whatever reason, the computer can only find you if you're wearing a communicator pin. So if Cisco were able to get an access to the transporter, he was like, oh, they're in these 4 places. Beep, 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 beep. And
I mean, bad guy logic, at least we can agree, it's better to make it so that the crew that you're sieging can't communicate with one another.
Oh, no.
So that at least
Take them for sure. But why wear them? Anyway, whatever. So we also learn that Maril and Varad are totally doing it.
Well,
so then we go to the infirmary, and they prepare to do the surgery, and Varad does not want anesthesia, so he can help if anything goes wrong. And
you missed the one part, TV, where we're with the bad guys, and the bad guys clearly are taking Dax away, Jadzia away, and they just all tell her, Bashir tells her, Ben tells her, I think O'Brien tells her, we're gonna make a plan and get you and save you, which is not something. I mean, I'm sure it's implied. You don't really need to say it in front of the bad guys. Feels like that might antagonize them, or maybe I don't know. Just feels like a bad choice strategically.
Well, I mean, if I'm the bad guys, like I'm imagining that they're not just be like, I'm assuming they're going to.
Yeah, but he just blasted O'Brien, and they just had a fight with. They just like maybe that's chill. I think she knows we're gonna make an effort.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. So anyway, in the infirmary, Bashir puts Jadzia to sleep. And on ops, Cisco tells Kira and O'Brien that Jadzia will die within hours of having the symbiote removed, which is, I think, adds to the stakes. Did you know that, Mike? That that they will die if you take out the symbiote?
I think we did know that. I think we had heard in that first Trill episode that once they're joined, once they take the symbiote out, you're done. You're done for.
Yeah.
I think.
So stakes are high for Jadzia here. Then there's a big hand-to-hand fight. And Cisco and Kira fight like badasses, but lose. I liked sort of the ferocity of their fighting. So here's the shot of them beginning the surgery.
In your summary, are we at the surgery yet, or no? We're before.
Not yet.
Okay, so
we're getting there.
Yeah.
Then. Okay. Yes. Big hand fight. I like how they fought.
Yeah. Then, cool.
Then in the infirmary, the worm is transferred down John Glover's pants.
And hold on, let's take read your joke first.
Yeah. It looks like how'd you know how to joke?
I can tell you set up.
It looks like the Trills have kangaroo pouches. Not sure if that's canon or productions, but I kept thinking trail pocket.
Yeah, well, it's funny because so from this shot, it's pretty clear that is not real
in any way, shape, or form attached to Terry Farrell.
But they are clever in this then shot that then they switch angles, and that's clearly her stomach, right?
Right.
And oh wait, hold on. Okay, this is where they fight. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the fight.
Yeah, Mike was behind. Ooh, yeah.
Pow, pow.
Wow, girl fight. Wow. I actually love. We'll talk later, but I love what they do with her character because you seem like she's just kind of going to be the jilted woman, but they really handle it, I think, interestingly.
Yeah, I think so too.
I was saying at this point, I was like, Quark, man, you're going to need to come up with some sort of a hero move because you're done fucked up pretty good this time.
Yeah, you sure did.
She's like, don't make that. Ben's was so weird in a lot of his responses. Like, he's clearly giggling. He's clearly giggling right now. Avery, we love you. Okay. So here we go. Now we're back. Now that not the best alien autopsy footage. I'm not sure you'd fool anybody here, but
trail pocket. Yeah, I like that. It's the. I don't think it is certainly we've seen this operation before. We saw it in the pilot, and we also saw it on Next Gen, and this was definitely not done this way.
No, and Keith, I'm not going to make one that looks like a poo joke. Not even one. Stop showing it.
Michael, have some decorum. That's Dax.
Yes, sorry, Dax. There she. Look at the John Glover character right now. That's a great performance right there. Because like, you have to fully invest and be like, give me that.
Give me that stomach poo. Put it in my kangaroo pocket.
And like, I'm gonna let you know what. Just he made a choice. He made a choice about what the physical experience of this was, and
look, for like that screenshot is not a fair and accurate representation of that scene. That screenshot is okay. Yep.
Is that any better?
Nope. Oh God, I'm so sorry to the world. Mm-hmm. I apologize to the world.
You know what, Keith? This couple of seconds is making somebody a patron.
And all the rest of them quit. Oh, God. Where are we? Oh, God. Yes. All right. So we head back to Ops. Whew, mercifully. Then Kira confronts Quark. Can't even speak anymore.
Kira says what I was thinking. She literally verbalized exactly what was in my head.
Like, you crossed a line this time.
Yeah. Now, we will forgive you and laugh it off as, Quark at the end, but you're going to have to work a little harder.
Well, and to be fair, Armin Shimmerman was like, ooh, this episode does some damage to Quark. He picks up on it when Quark gets away with doing stuff that really is, you shouldn't be getting away with it. Like, there should be consequences for Quark.
Well, and this brings up a question that Mike, I was going to save for later, but I will forget, so I'm going to bring it up now. And you can enlighten me with either what you know or what you think, depending on how the lore shakes out. So here's my question. I understand Quark is very transactional, and the ends justify the means almost 100% of the time, right? I mean, he'd sell his brother out, he'd sell his brother's seat on the lifeboat, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But is making the deal when it clearly could bring harm, physical harm or death upon himself or others that are close to him, which could bring legal ramifications or just mortality ramifications. Is he nearsighted in those moments, or is that a Ferengi trait? Is it what I'm saying? Is it a shortness of Quark, or is it a Ferengi thing?
I think it's a Ferengi thing.
Okay.
I think culturally, their expectations of one's behavior are just different. You know, the culturally they're because we all as a culture determine what is the priority of importance, right? And like personal safety and integrity and then profits, right? Or whatever it is, which is true for most of us, not all of us, but some of us, right? But I think in the Ferengi, it's profits, then all of those other considerations, and that it is, and part of the show sort of deals with this, where dealing with Nog and Jake having to learn that, like, wow, and we see it. We're going to see it more in terms of their social hierarchy and how they treat women is going to be a big deal, and that by our standards, it's awful. But that is their culture, and that's where you get into sort of prime directive sort of issues. So Quark is responsible for his behavior in Federation terms because he's on a Federation ship here. But if he were on Ferenginar, I don't think the consequences would be very different, because culturally their priorities list are rearranged.
Right. Okay.
So I do think it's cultural, as opposed. I think Quark is less ruthless than the other Ferengis that we see.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to write steady arcs, because you thought he kind of had a turning point in Come Along Home, even though it was really early on, like when they held him all hostage. But here he just kind of seems to have walked right into this.
Although, I mean, I will defend him a little bit in this, from both what Kira says, what you said, and frankly from what Armin says, like, Quark did not know this was going to be the outcome. He thought he was just selling some merchandise that was probably stolen, probably illegal, which is why
but he was letting people break into the ship. He was setting up.
Right, but he didn't think, like, all right, so you're working at Pizza Hut, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your buddies are going to come in, they're going to sell you some whatever, right? And you let him in the back door to sell you some, medicinal herbs, let's say, Mike.
Some oregano?
Wants to sell you some oregano, and you let him in there. You think, like, oh, I'm on my break, I'm going to come in, we're going to buy some oregano. Well, they come in, and then they rob this place, right? You're responsible for letting them in and robbing the place, but you didn't think that was going to happen. All right,
but if they shot my manager and killed him? I didn't think they were. I thought they were selling me some oregano, but that murder's still on me.
It's 100% like legally responsible, but your intent was not that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's all about intent.
I mean, to be fair, your manager probably was a jerk at Pizza Hut, but I could go for some Pizza Hut right now.
Yeah, I know you keep saying it. To be fair, I mean, he is integral to the resolution. So
yeah, he does try to make it right, sort of. Anyway, so Kira tries to figure out what Muriel's motives are. Turns out she was a prostitute on another planet, and that Varad was a regular who then took her to Trill when he was transferred. Cisco warns her that he's going to be very different once he's joined, and that he's going to be, like, literally an entirely different person. Then he shows up.
I think that that whole dialogue there is awesome because it's so served by a previous episode. All of the context we had in that first kind of Dax big episode was so important there, because you realize that everything Ben is saying, though it's tinged with a little plotting, is actually very true. Yeah.
Yeah. It's 100% the truth. Yeah. And we see that when Varad shows up, and he's now super confident He's Varad Dax. So here we go. And this is where we start to see John Glover's just like skill as an actor, that he creates two completely different characters. And instantly you can tell from his physical behavior, from his voice, from his, just making eye contact, like so many of the little things that you don't notice, the transition is great. John Glover is a phenomenal actor.
Yes. So
Act 2 begins, and Bashir tries to heal up Jadzia's kangaroo pouch. He asks the trail pocket. He asks the other Klingon for help for some reason, as if he can't handle these two things at once. The Klingon just calls her weak, but then Bashir yells at him and earns his respect. So that's how, you know how to earn a Klingon's respect?
Yell at him.
Yell at him. Maybe punch him in the face.
Make his hand bleed.
Then they will respect you. Then
squeeze his hand real hard, Keith.
Squeeze his hand. You basically all you know about Klingons is that sex scene from Worf. That is like literally all you know about Klingons.
What else I need to know?
That's pretty much all you need to know. That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. His son's a little whiny bitch, and he squeezes his hand real hard.
Oh shit. Oh.
No, in that episode, he's so mean to him. His son just like wants to be near him. He's like, Dad, I don't want you to die. And he's like, let me die. And you're like, okay, well, I would kind of like, don't you want your offspring to want you to live? Anyway, moving forward, Keith.
Klingon, different list of cultural priorities.
I know, you're right.
I mean, honestly. Jadzia wakes up and she immediately, trail pocket. She feels the loss of the symbiote, and she feels alone and empty now. And the good performance from Terry Farrell there. And I think she talked about this episode being very important to her because, and for the producers who got to see her show range that she hadn't been afforded the opportunity to, because she was hired basically because she was a model.
Mm-hmm.
And here we get to see her stretch a little bit and realize, oh, we have a lot more to work with here. So that's cool. So we head to Ops. And Sisko's up to talk to the new Dax. Varad is now all super chummy with him. And they reminisce and mention other Trek directors' names, including David Livingston gets a shout out in that. So lots of Easter eggs. Just like, basically like the Easter Bunny, just like throwing eggs everywhere.
Yeah, all we really need was one or two anecdotes to let us know that they know each other. But they really went for it.
That's basically... Season 1 and 2, Sisko and Dax, all they do are like reminisce about carousing. That's what they do. It's all they talk about. It's like you and me, because all we ever talk about is like our Titanic tour from 2003. Like, remember that time? That's all we talk about. Anyway.
But that's really just the tip of the iceberg of our friendship, Keith.
Oh God, I'm glad we both died. All right. Don't hit the button. There it is. Boo. Then Sisko brings up Jadzia, who is now part of Dax's experiences. So Jadzia's there. So this is a very interesting thing happening here, because Jadzia's consciousness and memories are now in two different places at the same time. And Sisko tries to get Dax to help Jadzia. But who's in charge now? Is it Dax or Varad? And Varad Dax. Then he snaps at his girlfriend, and he went from being a shy, snivelly dick to a confident dick. So Sisko tells them, of course, their friendship is over. And we begin Act 3 with Varad Dax is now chilling in Sisko's office while they wait. But what are they waiting for? I'm reminded later what they're waiting for. The storm needs to pass before they can peace out.
I thought they were waiting for the integration to be complete, but the storm thing, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, you're done. They're just sort of chilling. Sisko keeps working on Marine.
There's baseball, Keith. The baseball's always there.
The baseball? I told you the baseball was going to be important, right?
Mm-hmm.
I told you. Sisko keeps working on Marine, reminding her that Varad is gone, and Varad Dax already is treating her like crap.
Wasn't it better when your dick boyfriend was at least kind of like a shy dick?
Yeah, we just liked her.
Yeah. He was a dick to other people and not you?
Exactly. He tells her to go talk to him, and she doesn't want to. Then Quark attacks Tim Russ Klingon kind of out of nowhere and injures his ear in the process. This is such a bold move for Quark.
Yep.
And Quark's stunt guy. They of course then take him to the infirmary, and Armin makes a remarkable amount of noise faking an ear injury. Wow. I mean, it is a
But look at that
noises.
set. Oh, I want to play on it, Keith.
Oh, I know, right? The Deep Space Nine set is phenomenal. I don't think I really appreciated the Deep Space Nine set because, as a kid, and I was like, that's not the same as Next Gen. Make it the same as Next Gen. But now as an adult,
it brings up a kind of an interesting point. Like, Keith and I speak from we're at different times in our lives have and are actors, but even think about it. Like, a lot of the sci-fi stuff you see now and the Marvel superhero stuff, they're doing that against green screen. And so as an actor, you're kind of just like wearing a funny green suit and jumping around and having like wires on you. But like going to work on this lot, you get to like play. It's like you get to like play in the stuff. It seems to me to be much more fun.
I'm sure. It's a little bit better now because a lot of the
VR
stuff
type
is
stuff,
shot on. Well, it's not even VR now. They use LED nets. So they're actually I know the Star Wars.
Yeah, the Star Wars thing. What do they call that? It has a name, but
yeah. Well, you can actually. So they're actually shooting it in camera. There's no keying out or green screen anymore because they've done all the effects there and they've got it all. So that's pretty cool. My brother-in-law did King Kong on Broadway, and they had a very similar thing. The whole back wall was one of those big LED nets that was able to move and adapt to stuff. So it was pretty cool, but it's nothing like the practical set.
Right.
I mean, practical set is always going to be the coolest thing. So,
that practical King Kong was pretty friggin' awesome.
No, the King Kong. Did you see it?
I mean, I may have found a hashtag slime tutorial.
Oh, come on, buddy! You should have seen that. It was so cool.
Yeah, I should have.
It was definitely one to see in life. Anyway, luckily, Bashir is quick on the uptake, realizing it's a fake injury. So we head back to Ops, and Varad is beginning to verge on talking like a supervillain. We're seeing a little Luthor here, and now thinks that girls are gross. And Cisco gives an amazing "I told you so" smirk to Marine. So in the infirmary, Bashir once again convinces the gullible Klingon to be his nurse. Then naturally hyposprays him to sleep. So the look at that face. That is so ridiculous.
There's a lot of ridiculous facing right here. Oh boy.
Well, anyway, we get rid of the Klingon. We hooray for Bashir and Quark. Quark's plan worked. His sometimes being annoying and feeble can get you through just as well as being the tough guy.
Yeah.
Then Bashir takes out Odo's box and tries to open it. Quark isn't sure about opening it, thus asking, what is exactly Quark's plan here? If Quark's whole plan is like, I don't know if we should open it, what are you doing? Why did you do this whole thing?
That is legitimately the Matrix of Power from Transformers. That is exactly it.
It's cool. And if he opens it, like some Cenobites might come out. That'd be fun.
Or a little tribble. What are those called? Trouble with tribbles?
Tribbles. No, I was going. Anyway, we just might be dealing with that later, but there we are. So anyway, Quark of course eventually agrees and is able to crack the lock because Ferengi. And I gotta say, great sounds on the unlocking of the box. Cool. Good job, Uncle Jim. I noticed that and I was like, that sounds great. So sometimes it's not always the big pew-pews that add the most realism to a scene. Sometimes it's the little unlocking thingies that makes that feel much more real. So,
wait, Keith, I want to prove my point. I've I've done the research.
Oh, he's done the. Did you do your own research?
I did. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull it in.
Oh yeah. Very similar.
Very similar. I would say that's damn near identical.
It was not a ball in the middle, but it's pretty damn close.
All right.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Anyway. There we go. So on Ops, Varad says it's time to go. And they call the other Klingon, but he's passed out. And they realize they're in trouble. And they take Kira hostage and plan to leave. Dax tries to say goodbye to Sisko. But Sisko's like, I'm not giving up that easy. Go screw yourself. And it is interesting how much control Varad has versus how much control Dax has in the situation. Because I think we learn from this that the host is really the one in the driver's seat. And the symbiote is there to sort of navigate and give information and that sort of a thing. But it's the host who's in charge, which is interesting, at least here. Or you could also argue that maybe, like, you know, because the integration is still happening, Dax doesn't have his full powers yet. But it is funny to see how much control Varad has over Dax here. Because Dax has not come out of this looking particularly good.
No, and I think it's fair. And this is the sort of, we'll talk a bit more about it. But it really is, and they hammer us with it, is a third entity. So it's not really Dax. Like, it's hard to identify Dax as a separate being because we only know Dax in the context of all of its combined forms, is what I mean.
Right.
Whereas Jadzia, we have a bit of context now of Jadzia as an individual. Varad, we have some context as an individual, but mostly we know Dax as part of the duo of the integration.
Well, and it's much more than that, because the Dax that we know has already had 8 lifetimes.
Right.
So the actual symbiote, it's hard to disentangle the symbiote from the previous 8 lifetimes, not even counting Jadzia.
Right.
And we're going to learn a lot more about them.
And there's an interesting line at some point, I think it's around this period, where Varad Dax says, yes, Jadzia is going to die, but just the what's more important, 1 girl or 9 combined lifetimes? And I thought that's an interesting, that seems to be a moral judgment of Varad Dax and not sort of the Trill philosophy. I think that seemed pretty, like I think the reason he was not accepted is mostly because the selection committee had an idea that he might turn into a supervillain. Yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder, like, it's a good, like, question about the state of humanity, right? So if we had symbiotes, and how many, you know, so let's say as opposed to having 8 lifetimes, they had like 100,000 lifetimes. Would they eventually turn into somebody good or a supervillain in the combined aggregate of like 100,000 people? Like, are we basically good or are we basically evil? Which that would be the way to find out, like, as a species, by combining 100,000 of us and figuring out if we turn into a supervillain. My money's on supervillain.
Yeah, I would say the majority of supervillains. Probably 1 in 10 is probably a good ratio to aim for.
Yeah, fair enough. So Sisko keeps working on Muriel. He tells her that Varad is going to dump her and disappear.
She's going to take your micro machines.
He's going to take your micro machines and not hold your hand on the bus, and that's going to be it. Your heart will be broken for the rest of your life.
And you killed somebody for that. That ain't worth a kill.
Yeah, right. And my micro machines weren't worth that.
All we got to do is cut his belly open and slip that hot pocket back in the other leg.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you can have him with a big hole in his tummy.
I had a black Lamborghini micro machine, which was like the holy grail for me.
I loved those ones. The sparkly gold one was my jam.
You know, they make Star Trek micro machines. They did back in the day, so we might have to get those.
Wait, did we open some of those?
Not the same.
Oh, okay.
They did micro machine ships. Yeah. Just get to work on those.
Ooh, beat change. Ooh.
So, yeah, right.
He loves me? He loves me not.
He loves me not, yes. Well, because he's heading out first. That wasn't the plan.
It was not the plan.
No, she was going to head out first, but he's heading out first. And she finally gets it. She knows he's gone. And Sisko tries to make a deal. Give Dax back to Jadzia, and Muriel gets Varad back. So she hands Sisko the phaser. So Varad, the Klingon, and Kira get to the airlock on their escape attempt, and of course, Odo is there to attack them after having already released the docking clamps. They knock out Tim Russ, and Varad makes a run for the runabout. He opens the airlock to find Sisko waiting with a phaser. Pew pew! Punch punch! Varad doesn't think he'll be shot. Now, this is sort of a cool moment here. So Varad thinks, like, you're not going to shoot me, because if you shoot me, you're going to risk killing Dax. And, but this is choke out Quark and punch Q Sisko, not let's talk about our feelings Picard. And he just friggin' shoots him, because that's how Sisko do. He's not Picard, folks. So pew pew, John Glover gets it in the hot pocket, in the trill pocket. Varad wakes up in the infirmary. He could have shot him in the head. He does shoot him like right in the symbiote. Like, he had a lot of options of where to shoot him. But
we don't.
Varad,
nope, that's pretty clear.
That's like, it's just like right down the trill pocket. Like, come on, it's right down the kangaroo pouch.
Dunkaroos, you don't just dunk, you dunkaroo.
If your stomach makes a poo, you dunkaroo. All right, so that's terrible.
All right, so he wakes up.
We're bad people. Varad wakes up in the infirmary. Bashir has removed Dax and put them back in Jadzia. Varad is distressed because he's lost all the knowledge and confidence he got from Dax.
And she's like, hey, we're going to get back together now? And he's like, you'll see his face in a moment.
Like, I'll call you.
Yeah.
Jadzia wakes up, and interestingly, she now has all of Varad's knowledge and experiences too. And it's sad.
I know, she says it right in front of him. She's like, nah, and it's sad. It's like me being like, I have all of Keith's feelings. Oh, it's depressing in here.
Oh, God. Oh, man, I need a drink. Ugh.
It's so cold.
My feelings aren't cold. Shame and misery isn't cold. Loneliness isn't cold.
You're right, it burns.
Yeah, so, which is interesting. So now, even in that couple of hours, she now carries an entire other life inside of her, as a quick little host, which will kind of be forgotten about moving forward, but doesn't matter.
It wasn't a long time.
So she pities him, but to be fair, and here's my my fun little piece of trivia here. John Glover is cool as shit. He needs to be pitied by no one. He's Lex Luthor's dad, and wait for it, once hooked up with Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, he did.
So he is cool as shit.
She's like, oh, it's so fun being home. I was inside him. Ugh. And she's like, you want to get back together? And he's like,
Yeah, nah. But anyway, John Glover, dude's lived a life. Hell yeah. All right, it is time for Mike's Star Trek Vocab Quiz. And now it's time for Mike and Deglio's Star Trek Vocabulary Quiz. All right, your first one is easy, Mike. Here's a softball. What is a stasis chamber?
Well, Keith, sometimes you got a shape-shifting dude who needs to go on a vacation because you don't need him for the shoot. So you have him goo up and you stick him in an Autobot matrix of power. And then you got to put that in somewhere that I guess for some reason that needs safekeeping. So you stick it in a vacuum tube and there you go.
The stasis chamber. Close enough. All right, your next word is liquid data chains.
Yeah, so, sometimes you gotta fool that overeager Ferengi into letting you sneak on the ship, so you promise him some money or latinum bars in exchange for some tubby tubes. And these tubby tubes happen to have a name, Keith, and that name is what you just said.
But what are the tubby tubes?
They're, I don't know, goo? They're their own goo.
They're data.
Yes, data.
It's a way to store information. All right, well, what do you say we come along home and start giving out some self-sealing stem bolts? Okay, so here we are at Quark's. Looks like he's pouring some of those liquid data chains.
So good, tasty.
Maybe if we drank some, it'd make us smarter.
No.
Okay. So, what do you say? Let's. I think we got a few here. Let's talk about wormholes in the plot.
Yeah, we got to just discuss security aboard Deep Space Nine.
Oh my goodness gracious!
I think that is the major wormhole here. It seems like the plot is very. The siege is too easy, and not only do they get in too easy, I feel like Quark, though he has a lot of ingenuity when it comes to like knowing the back alleys and stuff, he's able to just defy the security systems way too easily. Quark's able to do it too easily. They're able to strong arm them too easily. They're able to get into the bridge too easily, or ops too easily. So that's my major wormhole. I'll let you talk more about it. But then I have a bookending wormhole.
All right, well, let's talk about security first.
Okay, first, let's start there. Okay.
Yeah, so, yes, I think Quark's ability to go through things, part of that is just because of, Odo's in love with him, so he lets him get away with shit. I think that's part of what that is. But the station itself has the security of said Pizza Hut that Mike works at. Yeah. Like it's like you just put a rock on the door that swings in the back, and then you're just like good to go, because that's craziness. It is craziness that first off, it was a Cardassian station, so Cardassians had to have taken security pretty seriously. But beyond that, it's a Federation now. Like, I understand like the Bajorans might not have their shit together yet in order to do that, but like, come on, that's some hot nonsense. Lock the doors, and Odo, just make out with him and then be a security chief again, because that was craziness. Anyway, continue. Part 2.
And then also it's like by the time they do the surgery, I feel like Bashir had all of the leverage. I mean, I guess there was bodyguards there, and he didn't want anybody to die, so I guess I can let it. But I feel like they could have intervened there. But my bigger wormhole is at the end, because they're able to convince the girlfriend that if she just helps them get Dax back into Jadzia, her boyfriend will come back, he'll love her again, and then they can go on their way. Even though she has to know that A, he gonna be miserable. B, he gonna be pissed that she kind of betrayed him to get him back, right? And C, there might be legal consequences.
Well, I know. Aren't they going to spend some time in jail?
Right? I mean, Ben his offer seems very kind. That, like, you know what, it all will be forgotten. Will it, though? Because they shot O'Brien. They body slammed Quark. They agreed to kill Jadzia. There's a lot that went down here. They kidnapped everybody.
Kidnapping, yeah. Like, if you go, because this is essentially like going to a military base and kidnapping all of the generals there, assaulting them, trying to murder another one they're like, oh, it's all good.
Yeah. Also, I know we don't have our communicators, but back to security. There's a lot of time just like sitting around watching John Glubber brood where we're just all together. Now, we don't have our little comm badges, but there's no emergency button on ops that someone can secretly hit. There's no hidden that can alert Starfleet or something.
Yeah, like my little mom and pop bank I used to go to in Jericho, Vermont has more security than the military station. Like they got a little button that says, boop, there's a problem.
Plus, they're willing to let people die, yet when Quark, who just attacked one of the bodyguards, hurts his earlobe, they're like, send him down. Let's split up. No. Send him down to... Yeah, it's... there's a lot of just, like, plot conveniences that I don't...
Although, I will rescue... I think that is that... The message we're getting here is that Varad was desperate for this for his own psychological needs or whatever, but he wasn't, like, necessarily evil. Yeah. He didn't want to hurt anybody. He just felt entitled to this. And
it is interesting that he became kind of more, I don't know if evil's the word, but antagonistic once he became Varad Dax.
Yes.
So it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't shine a great light onto Dax.
No, Dax does not come out of this looking good at all.
But Jadzia does.
Jadzia comes out great. But, like, I don't know.
But we've heard that before. Like, that's not a surprise to us. Like, Ben talks about, like, he was kind of like a booze hound womanizer. Or you know, like, not... Well, that's very...
That was the previous host. But yeah, no, he was having the affair with that lady. Like, they were getting into all sorts of trouble. Like, he was... Yeah, I mean, the symbiote, like, question for the world. Is Dax a dick?
He sure looks like one.
Trail pocket. All right.
Are we good with wormholes?
Yeah, let's talk about our favorite moments.
I think we got to give. Speaking of Jadzia, I think we got to give her credit where credit is due. I really loved, first of all, when she's first when the plot is first hatched, her willingness to kind of sacrifice herself / trust them to make the effort, and if it doesn't work out, sacrifice herself, is very heroic and very altruistic to her friends. She recognizes that it's been a great honor to be this person or this being, and obviously chooses the righteous thing. It's not even a decision for her, for them. It's very altruistic. And then the moment at the end that is beautifully acted, but more so that performance when she wakes up and feels the vacancy, and then when she wakes up and feels the sadness from the shared hosts, it doesn't give us full context of what it's like to be a Trill, but it adds a lot of color and a lot of layers that I think are really beautiful and fascinating. I just think the whole Trill experience is such a wild, awesome thing, and how straight they play it and seriously they play it and seriously they take it is really, it's such an interesting exploration. I've loved every second of that type of stuff, and I think those three little beat moments with Jadzia are really my favorite.
It's a great episode for Jadzia specifically, and it's a great episode for Terry Farrell.
Yes.
And I agree with you. I think it really is those moments of realization on Terry's face without the decisions, and and we see that Jadzia the character is incredibly noble. And you think, well, that's the wise old symbiote who's lived for 300 years. You know what? I don't think so. I think it's Jadzia who, protected the secret to help the other culture that she was, having an affair with that lady's wife or whatever, being willing to die to protect that secret. That's Jadzia. I don't think that's Dax. And so I think that's a very important moment. This as a performance for Terry, seeing like, oh wow, we have a lot more to work with here. And also for the character, we've learned more about the distinction. I love the world building we're doing about the Trill, that we're continuing to evolve and look at all the layers of what that's like. I think that's great. I like that very much. And it's a little bit of a spoiler, but I don't think it's necessarily that much of a spoiler. But later on, we're going to get to meet all of the previous hosts.
Oh, cool.
Through a pretty fun episode where we are going to see all of our main cast members playing different hosts. So it's going to be really, really fascinating. I think you're going to like that episode.
Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to it.
So It's not for years, but it's going to be really interesting to see them all out there by themselves, and to see the cool performances of our cast, like playing wildly different characters. Anyway, yeah. So I think that was my best moment for sure.
Right.
I agree with you. Let's talk about. Let's hand out some self-sealing stem bolts. What do you say, Mike?
Yeah, so when I watched this episode last night, I was over the moon about it. Now, once again, for our patrons, they'll know, and for our people who are thinking about being patrons, you should know. I'm generally in an altered state when I watch these. So it's, just so you know.
Well, you got your delivery in the back of the pizza.
Yeah, I got that oregano. Didn't work out well for my coworkers, but for me.
No, they got murdered, but at least you got to enjoy your episode of Deep Space Nine.
I was really over the moon about it. Upon closer scrutiny and discussion with you, I don't think we can let it off the hook. The plot conveniences, that's TV, and that's very much Star Trek. But it really strains the credulity. Like, I mean, they spent the whole first arc of the season with this big sort of like siege thing, and then we are so easily sieged this time. Like it really does. But that said, I'm a sucker for character beats. And here, what more can you ask for? I just think an incredible performance, an incredible story for Jadzia, an incredible arc for Jadzia, an incredible... you felt the stakes. You never really felt in danger, but I love how everybody played their part. I love how Quark made his mea culpa. I like how... interesting, I was expecting the whole episode, I was waiting for Dax to, like, be a part of the solution, but it never really is. Like you said, it's Jadzia, and that's really kind of they're really making a statement there, I think. You get to understand how Ben has moved forward on his journey with his friendship with Jadzia Dax, which is really kind of cool because remember, he was struggling with it when we first dealt with this. So that was really awesome. I thought the crew worked together really well, even without Renee in this episode. I really liked it. And I just think, once again, this season so far has just been shot, lit, and it sounds great. Everything just is, like, production-wise, is firing on all cylinders. They've sort of gotten a handle of their action sequences. They aren't as hokey. It's kind of working.
Yeah, I thought the fights were good.
The effects were pretty good. I mean, it's a good episode. I think it's hard not to put it in the high 70s, early 80s for me. So I'm going to say it loses a couple points because I wish the plot could have been a more clever way to get them to infiltrate. To get us to the interesting stuff. I'm going to say 79.95 self-sealing stem bolts.
You and your decimal points.
Yeah.
There's I agree with you that it is, I think, better than people received it. I mean, I don't need to talk about obviously we've talked ad nauseum about the sort of silliness of them being able to take over the station that easily. That's craziness. Even on a skeleton crew, that's absurd. All right, so we did.
Let me finish a point I forgot to make. As good as Terry's performance is, I think John Glover's performance is every bit its match in his kind of showing all stages of that person. In addition, I find that the subplot of the relationship of what's the
Varad and Marine.
Varad and Marine, is really interesting too. I think it's very relatable and yet complex because what she's trying to comprehend as to what's about to happen to her boyfriend, who's about to become like 9 people, is very interesting. We probably could have explored that more, but it really wasn't about that. But I thought there was enough soupçon of subplot there that it made it gave another dimension. So anyway, I hand it back off to you.
Yeah, no, well, I'll piggyback on that idea because, like, we look at how does it tie to relationships in real life, and being the shy, non-confident guy, like, that was me. I've been that guy. I still am that guy in a lot of ways. And it's, if you take this back to high school, it's like if somebody were dating me in high school, yeah, right. But like, I was like shy and unconfident. And then like, oh my God, I was Kenickie in Greece in my high school production. Now I'm like, oh, I'm the cool guy. And then like all of a sudden, like I'm shitty. Like, and I'm like,
I'm going to cut that out and play it back to you and just let you just psychoanalyze all of the words that just came out of your mouth.
Well, just clip it out and send it to my therapist. It'll be great. But yeah, I mean, how confidence changes people and changes relationships and messes with that kind of dynamic. This is a very extreme example of it, but again, we tie it to things. I think another, and I'll piggyback the John Glover's performance. I think is fantastic in this episode. It's John Glover, of course, he's great. I think I have two other thoughts about it. One is Sisko's decision. We sort of glossed over it quickly, but his decision to shoot Dax,
yeah,
was a big thing. Now, obviously, he's not thinking there's a great chance of killing Dax, but it is both a logical decision, but also like with tremendously high stakes, and not one that all of the other Starfleet officers we've met would have made. So I think even though Sisko wasn't a huge part of this episode, he was what made the plot turn in all of these things. And I think this last moment, we've learned a little bit more about Sisko's willingness to do what is necessary, even if it's a little bit risky, even if it's a little morally ambiguous. It's just different than Picard.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see that play out as we move forward, as he is put into more and more impossible high-stakes situations. How he chooses to handle it. Will he make some compromises ethically? Will he take some big risks? Will he handle things more directly as opposed to diplomatically? Like, I think that's a really interesting thing, that we're starting to build this groundwork for this character. I think in terms of the siege and in terms of Quark's role in it, I think that's where I think there's a little bit of a breakdown here, because all right, so they get in because of something Quark did, right? Okay, That's an interesting story. That's, it certainly puts Quark in a difficult position as opposed to them finding a clever way to break into the station. Okay, great. But you sort of had Quark be the entry point, but we didn't really pay it off. We didn't really have that mean very much. Yes, of course, he did play a role in rescuing them, sort of, and he did sort of make the decision to, like, let me do something, but it really wasn't. If you're going to do that, I would like to see that play out a little bit more. It was kind of shorthanded, and play out some of these consequences. What was his emotional experience of this? How is this going to change the other relationships on the ship? Like, what about Jadzia? What about Dax? How does Dax feel about that? How is that going to change their relationship? Is it going to change anything? And that just sort of it's like they ran out of time. Like, it's not about that or whatever, which is fine. So have them get in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to tell that story, don't half tell it.
Yeah.
Because I think, as Armin said, I think it does damage to the character not to play that out. Because then it's just Quark is somebody who does shitty things sometimes, but we don't know why. We don't know what the consequences are. It doesn't really get paid off. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think talking about it sounds like I didn't like the episode. I did like the episode. I think that in terms of continuing the story of understanding the Trill, I think that's cool. I think John Glover's character and the journey that he goes on, the desperation for the validation, for the power, for the confidence, the feeling of entitlement that he has for that's a very human thing, right? We battle sort of entitlement, and then we, you look at, the Scandals getting their kids into college, right? Getting my kid into Yale or whatever, and sort of feeling entitled to that and going to great lengths. And it's, Yeah, it's a very human thing, and it is a logical thing to see battle through, and the changes in the confidence and the relationship. I liked it. So all of that, I feel like this is not a disposable episode like some of the others are. I think this is actually an important character storytelling episode. That said, it's got some holes. So it gets, for me, 76 self-sealing stem bolts.
Trombones? Oh, no, it's
Trombones.
closing. No trombone. 76. Trombone. Right.
76. Boo. I did Grease, man. Did I mention I played Kenickie?
You did mention it.
I was a chubby Kenickie in a mock turtleneck.
Do you know who else played Kenickie, Keith? Our patrons.
Did they?
Ladies and gentlemen, these types of segues and more available to our patrons.
All right, okay, all right, hold on. Patrons, or anybody listening to this, if you played Kenickie and can prove that you played Kenickie at any point in your life, in Greece, show a picture, send a clip or whatever, Mike and Deglio will perform Grease Lightning for us here. We're going to get a backing track, and he's going to perform Grease Lightning on the next episode if somebody can prove.
Go Grease Lightning, you're signing up for Patreon at patreon.com/KNDM.
Next week, we are doing Cardassians. So here we go. We will see you back next week for season 2, episode 5. Thank you so much for watching. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. I think I need a sandwich. Till then, this has been... Thank you for watching KME Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe.